Hello, everyone, and welcome into Auburn Tigers Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. Taylor Jones with you, host of today's show. You can also catch my work on USA Today's College Wire Network at the Auburn Wire. We'll be having a lot of Auburn-related news over there on that site. And joining me this week as a special guest host, also of the Auburn Wire, as well as the Phillip Jordan Show, is Phillip Jordan joining us this week. Going to be talking about a lot of different things going on in the world of Auburn sports. Thank you again for tuning in this week. We didn't have a show last week. I was in North Carolina at a youth church camp, had a lot of fun, still recovering from it. Not only did we have to do youth activities all week, but we had to do so in the mountains, having to hike a little bit. So feel like my legs are stronger than ever, but still very tired. And we thank you again for joining back at us here on our normal time slot on Mondays at 7 p.m. And Phillip, before we go any further, it's a question that has been in my ear for a couple of days now since we made it public that you were going to be on our show on Monday. It's pronounced Jordan, right? Not Jordan?
Jordan, yes.
Jordan. Okay, that's right. Making sure we know that going forward. But Phillip Jordan joining us on the show this week. And you mentioned it before we got going that it's kind of weird because usually I'm on your show and this time you're on my show. So let's see if I can do any better than you, or at least somewhat kind of be in the ballpark with what you do with your podcast. And but yeah, we got a lot to get into this week as we didn't have a show last week. Going to try to find ways to get another show in this week if it's possible. And if so, we'll definitely let you know when to check out Auburn Tigers Live. But before we go any further, we'd like to tell you that your comments are welcome in today's live show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let them know here in the comment section. We'll definitely get out to them. Already got Miss Karen in there with the Wardam Eagle. We also got Blake, Wardam fam. Thank you guys again for tuning in and watching this week's show. The one thing we'll start off with, got to talk about Hugh Freeze a little bit. And it's officially off-season talking season, if you will. Baseball, unfortunately, their season ended in the Super Regionals. The last show we had Blake Lane join the show, who's also the host of Auburn Primetime Live here on our network. And we just talked ball for an hour and a half, and it was a lot of fun. Can't really do that now since the season's over, but we've now moving into college football talk and Hugh Freeze. And this is something that I saw on social media a couple weeks ago, but I haven't been able to talk about it yet. So I'm going to talk about it now. And it was a question posted by fellow Auburn podcaster Zach Blackerby and Locked On Auburn. So thanks, Zach, for the content. But he posted the question with the success that Auburn basketball has had. They just went to the Final Four. And the success that Auburn baseball has, where they were 2 wins away from going to Omaha for the third time since 2018. How much pressure does that put on Hugh Freeze? Do you think that his seat is hotter because of those two, the success of those programs? And, we're going to answer that question, but I think the other question that we're going to answer first, Phillip, is that a fair assumption? Is that a fair question to ask for Hugh Freeze? And I know a lot of Auburn fans already are saying, absolutely, it's a fair question. We're a football school first, no matter how successful basketball is, no matter how successful baseball is, golf, the horses, we're still in Auburn, we're still a football program, and we've got two of our arch rivals that have just absolutely dominated us the last few years. We need to be at the top, and Hugh Freeze needs to be responsible for that and get it in. So I'm going to throw these questions out for you, Phillip, before I ask your thoughts on it. Looking at the first 2 years that Bruce Pearl was at Auburn, he went 15-20 in year one, 11-20 in year two. So that's 39% win percentage in his first 2 years. For Butch Thompson, he went 23-33 in his first year and then turned it around his second year, going 37-26. So that's a 50.4. So just over 50%. And then with Hugh Freeze, of course, went 6-6 in his first year, lost the bowl game to Maryland, finished 6-7. And then, of course, last year went 5-7. So he is sitting at 44% wins in his first 2 years at the helm of the Auburn football program. So for you, Phillip, do you think that one, should Hugh Freeze be on the hot seat? Two, is it a fair assumption just because of what Auburn football or Auburn baseball and Auburn basketball have done? Is that a fair assumption to put Hugh Freeze on the hot seat just based on their success?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be fair in a way, just because you look at other programs, and as you mentioned, introducing this question, that Auburn is a football school, and a lot of people are probably looking at, why can't we be doing this in football? At least getting better, at least getting 8 wins, not fighting for bowl eligibility every year. And when you look at it, this goes beyond Hugh Freeze. It goes into how it ended with Gus Malzahn. You kind of saw where the track of the program was his last year, and then Brian Harsin. Auburn's had 4 straight losing seasons. This is not something the Auburn fans are used to. I mean, they've had 2 bowl appearances, 6 and 7 years, Brian Harsin stuff. So I think you look at that and you look at the success, and I'll say this, with basketball, I think SEC basketball is healthier than SEC football is right now. So
Right.
you can say that the basketball side of it is tougher than the football side of it right now. I know a lot of people may not agree with me just because it's football. But seeing what Bruce Pearl has done in basketball, where the SEC has gotten so tough, so many teams that can win a national championship, the SEC football is still great, but it has dipped a little bit. So I think in certain aspects, it is a fair question or a fair expectation to have on Hugh Freeze, because coming in, I mean, he's won everywhere he's went. Look how quick he turned around what he did at Liberty. I mean, they were, year 1, year 2, winning 10 games. So I do think there is that is a reasonable expectation or pressure that Hugh Freeze is now under.
But yeah, that's kind of how I am with it too, because from his success of taking quarterbacks that really don't have a name and then really getting the receivers out to them and getting the ball out to the receivers. He's known for doing that, and he's got potential to do it again this year. So I think, looking at that and, the receivers that he has brought in both in high school and in transfer portal recruiting, he's done well.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen that success on the field just yet. And the reason that I think that this is probably, I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I think he's got to show some sort of progress this year. And it's not really recruiting right now, but it was something that I've seen a couple of times doing research for things that we've written, or just thinking of, I need, I'm, curious how things have worked out. But you look at Cam Coleman, and Cam Coleman last year, his production in the final 3 games trumped anything he did in the first 9.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've got to look back at the exact numbers. I'll have it pulled up in just a second, because I remember writing something about it today. But, you've got to realize what kind of players that you have and how to use them. And I just think, if you give Cam Coleman the same production in the first 9 games compared to the final 3 games, and I think Auburn at least goes to a bowl game. Maybe they beat Oklahoma. Maybe they beat Missouri. Maybe they beat Arkansas. You just think of like some of those wins where it's like, if things just go a little better, then the season's completely different. So yeah, looking back at what Cam Coleman did, the first 8 games of the year, we won't talk about the Georgia game because he really didn't have much going on in that game. 15 of 29 targets for 292 yards and 2 scores. That was the first 9 games of the year. The final 3 games, he caught 22 of 25 passes. So he already he didn't have as many targets, but he did catch more in the final 3 games, 306 yards and 6 scores. So I think it's one of those things that this year you've got to understand who your playmakers are on the field, and you've got to get them the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because you saw at the end of the year. I mean, he was getting, but early in the year he did have some drop issues. That seemed like with
especially
him,
in the Cal game. Yeah, that was one that stood out.
And that was another one. It's just when you went into the last year, you said Auburn should win this one, and that was one of the ones they didn't. But yeah, if a full season of him, even at that level, and you got to expect he's going to be at a higher level going into this upcoming year, being a sophomore. And then honestly, look, Keandre Lambert-Smith was great, but I think he's got a better partner on the other side of the field with him now in Eric Singleton. I mean, we've seen the mock drafts, so that's going to add to it too as well with Cam Coleman. But yeah, if you get him the ball more this year, they're going, at that rate that he was at the last three, and has a better quarterback back there to deliver the ball to him. Yeah, that will equal even more success for Auburn, because the offensive inconsistency has been the problem with this Auburn team the first 2 years under Hugh Freeze. But I don't think receiver was an issue for that.
Yeah, I don't think it was either, but I think you do have to get the guys the ball that you need to,
Yeah.
and that'll definitely play a factor into it. We're talking about Hugh Freeze in the talking season chatter. Is his seat hot going into the year? I don't think it is right now, just because you really do have to look at what he inherited. And I just think about it now, his recruiting efforts. If he were to get fired this year for whatever reason, and I don't think he will, but if he were to get fired this year, can you imagine the new coach coming in and the cupboard that he has due to Hugh Freeze's recruiting efforts? And that's like the opposite of what happened with Hugh Freeze, because of what Brian Harsin did or what he didn't do.
It's what he didn't do. It's what he didn't do.
Yeah, and there's a lot we could get into that. That may be another show for another day. I don't know if 1 hour is enough but you and I, we've talked about Brian Harsin and our thoughts about it. But we both, you and I, Phillip, we've talked about it. Not really sure if the hot seat is the right thing to say right now. But the question that sparked this debate was from Locked On Auburn, with the success of the Auburn baseball team, with the success of Auburn basketball going to the Final Four, how much pressure is on Hugh Freeze? And we thought, trying to go from another angle, is it a fair question? And we looked at Bruce Pearl's winning percentage in year 2 and Butch Thompson's winning percentage in year 2. And even when you look at Bruce Pearl, he eventually went up. I mean, there's been some years where he's won more games than others, but he's been rather successful for the most part. And Butch Thompson, as we've mentioned, he did real well in year 2. He's taken Auburn to the College World Series a handful of times in the short time that he's been here. Last year was tough. The year before that ended on a sour note, but he got them right back to where they needed to be this year, and they were 2 games away from Omaha. But they ran into that buzzsaw that's the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, who are 2-0 in the College World Series this year. So, I mean, we try to get a piece of them, but, we can only do what we could do.
Mm-hmm.
But recruiting efforts, I think, are doing okay. So I think that is going to help him a little bit. Something we're going to talk about later on in the show is trying to get some good news on the recruiting trail, because last week we got the commitment of a 3-star athlete who's playing quarterback for his high school team, but is more than likely going to transition to running back. But we did lose a 4-star linebacker, so our recruiting ranking is plummeted. But we got some good news this weekend, so maybe some good news is on the forefront, and recruiting can continue to go in an upward direction. But you've got to respect the effort that Hugh Freeze has put in right now. And this is for the argument of he's not on the hot seat, because he is putting in effort. He is giving a you-know-what. And he's trying to make Auburn a great place. He wants to be in Auburn. He's going to do anything he can to make Auburn great. And he's working with an athletic director that I think is doing a wonderful job. You look at what he did with baseball, and you look at that brand new Jumbotron that Auburn is going to get this year, which RIP to the old faithful that we had in the opposite end zone this year. But going to take a look at some of the comments right now. We've got one for one side and one on the other. William is a loyal watcher of our show live. Hugh isn't on the hot seat. The seat isn't warm. I agree with that. And then we've got Karen. I think Hugh is on the hot seat. He's got to show improvement this year. And I don't know about you, Phillip, but I kind of see where they're coming from on both sides, both William and Karen.
Yeah, from the recruiting side. Now, I got thinking about this as you were talking. There are parallels between Hugh Freeze and Bruce Pearl, because we can all say this: the guy that was ahead of him was the worst coach in program history.
Oh, you're right.
Tony Barbie before, Bruce. I mean, Auburn was bad in basketball for 10 years. It went off to Jeff Lebo too. I mean, Jeff Lebo had that 1 year they went to NIT, but that was all postseason for them. But Tony Barbie is regarded as the worst basketball coach in Auburn history. And then Brian Harsin is looked at as the worst coach in Auburn football history. And as you mentioned in that, it took Bruce a few years to kind of get things going. but it's kind of like, I think it is a football school. I mean, I know Bruce
Yeah.
Pearl says Auburn's an everything school, and that is true to a degree, but football is the top sport.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be as patient with you as people were with Bruce Pearl, because I don't think people expect much out of the basketball program. But I will say that, that's a long way of saying there are some parallels here with what Hugh Freeze is trying to rebuild, kind of like what Bruce Pearl had to do following Tony Barbie. But yeah, I see it both sides. It's just the football side there's always going to be impatience. It's always impatience. And especially when Hugh Freeze got to Auburn, Nick Saban was still at Alabama. I know we don't talk about that other team in the state, but also it's a big opportunity for Hugh Freeze this year, because I'll say this: you get Georgia at home, and Taylor, watch it. This might where the show trends worldwide. Whatever I'm about to say, I think Georgia is the second best team going into the season, but I do not think they are as invincible as they have looked going into previous years. They got questions at quarterback. They had questions at wide receivers. And what happened last time Georgia went into Jordan Hare? If it wasn't for Brock Bowers, Auburn maybe beats them.
Yeah.
Okay, that guy's not there. Carson Beck's not there anymore. He's down at South Beach. And then you get Alabama at home. And let's face it, the last 2 times Auburn has hosted Alabama, Auburn should have won. I'm not trying to bring up bad memories. If Tank Bigsby doesn't run out of bounds, Auburn wins that game, and we know about what happened 2 years ago, with Jalen Milroe. So there's an opportunity that you get your two biggest rivals, and I don't think they're at the height of their powers as they've been in previous years. So if you can get those wins, because I felt like for Hugh Freeze, we always like to attach a win total. What gets you off the hot seat? It's not the win total. You got to have, I think, 8 wins he needs. Really, not to save his job, but at least go into 26 with a cooler seat. But you have an opportunity. You have home games with Georgia and Alabama, and let's just face it: at the end of the year, that Iron Bowl is going to be crazy. We all know how it is at Jordan Hare, and the rest of the schedule is not. It's SEC, so it's always tough, but it's you can navigate that schedule.
Yeah, it really is. And that is the good thing, is that you basically get the same SEC schedule that you did last year. So you look at the games against Missouri that you could have won, game against Arkansas that you could have won, game against Texas A&M should be an easy one. Oklahoma, another one that you feel like, dang, we could have won that one. And if those roles were reversed, I mean, that's a 9-10 win year. And then Cal, whatever, we're not going to get that one back. But you were a few plays away from being 9-3. So it's not that it's impossible to do. And then as you mentioned, you get Georgia and Alabama at home. But the good news is we do know for sure that it will be a night game when the Dogs come to town. So that's always, not only is that place haunted, as Nick Saban says, but it's even worse at night. And, kind of makes you wonder if, the 8th time is way too much, and it's, things are going to go in the way of Auburn. And then, of course, Alabama, you don't really know, even with Jalen Milroe, we didn't really know about Alabama. Sometimes you're going to have a great week out of him. Sometimes you're not. Unfortunately for us, he did pretty well against us the 2 years that he was against us. And even when we thought we had him, 4th and 31, the Gravedigger and Isaiah Bond, that was just tough. But I mean, I like Auburn getting at least 9 wins this year. And Hugh Freeze, we're not even going to say he saves his job, because I don't think it's, up for debate right now anyway, really, when you really think about it. But I think 9 wins is definitely reasonable, because I think, Auburn or Alabama, Georgia, you're not really sure. And there may be one that could slip up and be an issue. There could be an SEC team that's really good that we don't know about, or flipping Diego Pavia gets us again in Nashville. It's just, one of those gray areas that, you could go, it's close to either 10 wins or could be, 7 or 8, but I still think, 9's about a reasonable number when you think about who Auburn's playing, who Auburn's got this year, and how all that comes together.
And if you're talking about 9 wins in the regular season, then you have put yourself in the college football playoff discussion.
Yeah.
Not necessarily maybe get in, but you're in the discussion. So that's another part, and I think we talked about this before. The biggest hiccup I see in his schedule, and I'm probably in the minority in this one, is that back-to-back September 20th and 27th at Oklahoma and at Texas A&M, because we know Jackson Arnold is going to be charged up for to go into back to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any real hard feelings for him toward Oklahoma. He needed a restart. It's probably better for them too as well. But still, going back, he's going to want to play well. So then you have to turn around again, and then you got to go to College Station. Now Auburn has had success there since A&M has come to the SEC, but that's kind of a tough 2-week stretch, and then we get off, and then you play Georgia at home. But I don't know. That's what as a Troy student, I'm very happy I get to root against South Alabama twice this year. So I just wanted to throw that
That's
out
always
there.
great. Yeah, and then you think about it, you've got to go out west 3 times in the month of September because you start off on a Friday night at Baylor, and that's going to be interesting too. There's no way that Walker starts that game because I think Sawyer Robertson's got that job down pat. But you got to think about that, and then you got to think about Auburn going into Oklahoma. And then taking on Texas A&M, which, as you've mentioned, it's like the road team always does better in that series. Unfortunately, last year that wasn't the case. It was a lot of fun watching Auburn beat them in 4 overtimes. As a sports writer, it's always a fun time when you write out a story and then you have to delete everything and then write it again and then have to delete everything again just because the trend of the game has changed so much. And that's exactly what it was. And because I remember my child was sick. One of my children were sick, and they were laying down right beside me asleep. And I'm thinking, okay, we got it just right. All I've got to do is put the final score down, and we are good. And then something else crazy would happen. I'd have to erase half the document. So that was a fun game too. And here's something. Speaking of that Oklahoma game and Jackson Arnold, something I didn't even think about until I heard it on McElroy and Kublik in the morning. You ever get a chance to listen to that or any of the things on Twitter? I know you're down in South Alabama. You don't get to listen to jocks that far south, but you get to listen
great
to
thing about podcasts. Great thing.
That is right. Yeah, 2025 is a wonderful year.
I am a Cole Kublik guy, so yeah. But yeah, I'm familiar with that show.
McElroy actually brought up something that I didn't even think about when it came to Jackson Arnold, and it made me even more excited about having him because you look at what he's capable of doing, the supporting cast he has around him, including a very Auburn experienced offensive line. Really, the only thing you're looking for is a tackle, and you've got 2 experienced guys, one from the ACC and Xavier Chaplin, and one from the Pac-12 Big Ten, Mason Murphy out of USC. So, I mean, no problem there, but at Oklahoma, he played under Brent Venables, and Brent Venables is known as a darn good defensive coordinator at Clemson. Now he comes to Auburn playing for an offensive-minded Hugh Freeze. How much does that help Jackson Arnold?
Yeah, and I thought they gave up on him too early at Oklahoma last year.
Yeah.
He got benched way too early, I think. And look, because, it was very publicized. I mean, Oklahoma was in a bad way at wide receiver. And look, the guy was one of the best recruits out of the state of Texas, for a reason. So, and now with Hugh Freeze, and look, he has an improvement over Peyton Thorne. I mean, that was one thing. I mean, I think we can probably both agree the biggest mistake Hugh Freeze made in year 2 was sticking with Peyton Thorne. That he did not go out and find another quarterback.
Yeah, there were a handful of things we could say, but yeah, that's got to be the top.
Yeah, I mean, because Auburn may have had some opportunities, just from if you see the message boards and stuff online of some other big name quarterbacks that went to other schools. But yeah, I mean, and with Hugh Freeze and like I said, what he's been able to do, the offensive line being much better. Yeah, he should flourish in this offense. Now, I ran my mouth last off season, Taylor, and this was my quote, and I've been afraid to do it because it would be the same thing that I said last year. I said last year going to season, I said if Peyton Thorne is good, Auburn can go 9-3. So I will
And,
say it
there's
again.
nothing wrong with that. If
I
Peyton
will
Thorne
say
was good, Auburn would be 9-3.
I will say it again on your show. If Jackson Arnold is good, Auburn can go 9-3. You know what? I'm just going to say it every year. I'm going to say whoever the quarterback is at Auburn, if he's good, they can go 9-3.
And I can't wait for the day where if so and so is good, Auburn goes 9-3, and everybody freaks out. Not because are you serious? You think Auburn can win 9 games? It's are you serious? Auburn's only going to win 9 games. I can't wait for that transition to happen, and I feel like we're on the right path.
And I will get on social media and I'll say, I told y'all, they would go 9-3. So, we were talking about these quarterbacks. You brought Walker White, former Auburn quarterback.
Yeah.
I just thought about this, and as you're talking, I was looking through. I got one of the preseason magazines in front of me. Auburn will face another former quarterback of theirs this season. Can you guess who
I'm
it
trying
is?
to think. Is it Calzada, right? In Kentucky?
He's at Kentucky. He's projected to be Kentucky star. I did not know he still had college eligibility.
Yeah, I
saw
didn't
that
know
in
either.
preseason magazine.
Also, TJ Finley does too, but I don't know where he's going to play that because I think he's not with Tulane anymore after his latest incident.
Yeah, he's how many schools has he been at? He started.
Gosh,
It was
I gotta think. So he started off at LSU, then he came to Auburn, then he went to Texas State.
Yes.
And again, there's been a lot of schools, so I think I'm going to get the schools right. I know, I just don't know about the order. So LSU, Auburn, Texas State. Because I remember he went to Texas State, did pretty well, and then they brought in that quarterback from James Madison, who was also pretty well. And GJ Kinney was like, yeah, we're going to go with this guy. And TJ felt blindsided. So he left and went to Western Kentucky, I believe.
Yep.
And then Tulane. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I could be wrong. Maybe a Mandela effect. I don't know. Apparently Mandela effects are a real big thing nowadays. I feel like he went to Southeastern Louisiana at one point, or he was thinking about going to SLU. I don't know. I feel like that was a discussion at one point. Either he went to SLU or he thought about going to SLU. But yeah, Zach Calzada, a guy that we haven't thought about, didn't really get to see the field because he was hurt when he was at Auburn. Went to Incarnate Word, I think, and the last really good quarterback from Incarnate Word, Cam Ward, was supposedly a big deal. So maybe he's going to follow in Cam Ward's footsteps and be the number 1 overall draft pick out of Kentucky. I don't know, but yeah, that'll be a fun time too, because he was a Harsin guy and a Austin Davis guy, a guy that was our offensive coordinator for 2 weeks.
Yeah. He blinked and he missed it. With that one. Yeah, I was about to ask it. I thought Calzada was supposed to be the starting quarterback going into. He was supposed to replace Bo Nix because they gave him the same number as Bo Nix. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was supposed to be the guy. And then it was Robbie Ashford.
Yeah, he couldn't beat out Robbie Ashford, nor could he beat out TJ Finley. But he was also hurt too, so I don't know how much went into that. But
well, he won't throw the ball much at Kentucky. They don't really do that often over there. So
no.
But yeah, I was flipping through. I thought, I can't believe this guy's still around. And it did shock me, TJ Finley, because you act up with John Summerall, you're not going to be around much longer. I know that from being close to Troy. So
yeah, good old Troy. How do you feel about Caldwell? We almost got Caldwell, and now he's over at Texas. How do you feel about that?
I went to a couple of Troy games earlier this year. They had Bruce Crowder, their starting quarterback, just had concussion issues early in the year. Eventually they shut him down. Caldwell at the beginning of the year looked like a guy that hadn't played at that level.
Yeah.
When he got in. But he got better. The interceptions was kind of an issue at times. But he got better as the year went on with Troy, and they actually won 3 of the last 4 games. And they had some momentum going into the end of the year. He had some big numbers. There's one week where he was Sun Belt Player of the Week. But you got to think him going to Texas is kind of like, okay, I got 1 year college eligibility left. Let me go to Texas, potentially a team that could win a national championship. You don't expect to see him on the field. I mean, I think we were kind of thinking he'd come to Auburn just because he's going back home. Just go back home. Your final year of college, but you kind of get the Texas thing too if you want to try to at least hey get a ring potentially.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're a big time recruit and you get a chance to go on an official visit to like USC or Hawaii or Miami, and it's like, yeah, I'm committed to Auburn or I'm committed to Tennessee or I'm committed to Texas or whatever, but I want to go hang out on South Beach for a weekend, or I want to go see the Black Sand in Hawaii, or go to LA and be Hollywood for a weekend. It's kind of the same thing where it's like, yeah, I don't see me beating out Arch Manning, and if he does beat out Arch Manning, then there's more problems in Austin than we know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me get a ring before we get out of here. And
Now you do that with Dabo at Clemson, he'll pull your offer.
yeah, that's right. And there's again nothing wrong with that, but I know a lot of players have done that. And it's also kind of getting a trend now where we've seen a lot of recruits that have already committed or they've made up their mind where they're just like, yeah, I'm just not even going to go on the OV anymore. And that's a perfect segue into our next setting that we're going to talk about today, and that's going to be Landon Duckworth. Kind of a surprise to me, honestly. I mean, in a good way, I guess, that he has named his top two, and the Auburn Tigers are in the top two. And I saw that he released his top two, and I automatically thought, dang, it's South Carolina and Ole Miss. It seems to be the two teams that have been very high in his recruitment. Auburn's recruited him very well, but have we gotten the same love? Not publicly. We really haven't seen a whole lot. But now he's top two, planning on announcing his commitment very soon, and Auburn's got a couple more weeks to win him over. And it was a good thing last weekend because he was in town. He said that he canceled his official visit to Florida State, canceled it to Ole Miss, so he had a couple extra weekends. So he came back to Auburn, couldn't do the official visit thing, so he just came and visited, talked with coaches, talked with several of the current players, talked with several of the other recruits, and all that. So Landon Duckworth now back in the race. Auburn, a big suitor for four-star quarterback Landon Duckworth out of Jackson.
And let's just play the scenario that he commits to Auburn. Their quarterback room looks very interesting moving forward, in 2026, because Jackson Arnold, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's got 3 years eligibility. I mean, he's still got it. And then you got Deuce Knight, who everybody raved over in the spring. And I got to kind of wonder what he would be thinking too. Landon Duckworth come in, but hey, as a coach and a coaching staff, you need to bring as much talent at that position as you can. Whatever happens after that, we know how the world of college football is now anyway. Somebody's going to transfer out. I wonder if his running back, where he goes, Xavier Crowell, I wonder if that's going to have an impact on the two.
Yeah.
If they both are they? You look at them that they're both visiting Auburn and everything. I mean, I know there's not that connection with the South Carolina part, but I wonder how much what one does will sway the other. That's kind of interesting to me. Two guys like that on a very good team here in state Alabama, in their backfields, kind of looking at the same school. I mean, I kind of wonder about that.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that too, because I know Crowell, he's definitely he's looking at Alabama. I think Georgia's involved, LSU may be involved too. But yeah, Crowell was in town too. So I don't know if he's trying to do a little swaying, or they've got a couple of the commits that are trying to sway him in there. I saw something today about Devin Carter, 4-star wide receiver from Douglasville, Georgia, who's been committed since January, but he was kind of flirting with Florida State a little bit, or that's what the media was leading us to believe, that, hey, you got to watch out for Norvell and Florida State. But he goes to Auburn this weekend for his official visit, and he says, yeah, I'm a Tiger, don't worry about it. And so that's it's kind of refreshing as well. And he even said while he was, discussing it, he said, yeah, I hung out with Deuce Knight. We've done a couple of things together, and but now we're, working on developing a relationship. And I'm very excited about Deuce having 1 year of college experience, whether that be in the game or just being around the college game in itself. He's going to have a year. Devin Carter's going to come in. He could teach him a lot of things. So he's pretty excited about working with Deuce Knight, but he also said he's recruiting Landon Duckworth too. Don't get it twisted. So that's definitely what Auburn needs right now. And that's something that's never really been an issue. Maybe during the Brian Harsin era, we didn't hear about it. most. We had like one or two guys that we thought, okay, they're doing most of the recruiting, but now it's like, okay, we've got the commitments. Because I remember, when Cam Coleman recommitted and signed, he was like, yeah, we're working on these guys, and uh, Keldrick was working on his brother for a little bit, and those, like Malik Blockton was a big recruiter. Malik Autry was a big recruiter as a recruit themselves too, and that's something that definitely Auburn needs. Is they've kind of slipped in the recruiting rankings now, but I don't think that's really going to be the trend for much longer too. I think these official visits that are coming in are really going to help Auburn out. I think we're going to see something really special over the next several weeks.
Yeah, and I think there's more of a trend when high school players now are wanting to commit before they get going with their final season of high school football. Kind of get rid of that distraction. Um, of course, nothing's official till December or when they're ready to sign.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that's been more of a trend lately. Just kind of covering high school football too around down here. You kind of see guys just okay. I'm going to commit before, let you know what I'm going to do before the season. Don't kind of let that drag. Cause that can be a distraction, especially if you're on a team like they are that's going to compete for a state championship. You don't want to distract from that side of things too. So, but yeah, that should be an uptick. Like you said, these players, I mean, they kind of did drop after some decommitments and did not land Daniel, the wide receiver, that ended up going to the Florida Gators last week too. But yeah, I feel like they're in the 50s, but that's going to come back up. So,
and one guy to look out for this week, this was a tweet that went live right before we went on the air, Phillip. Vodney Cleveland, a defensive lineman, originally from Prattville, but he plays at Parker now. And he said that he's not going to go to his official visit this weekend to Miami, and that he will be committing on the 21st. So listening to it live right now, it's the 16th, so it'll be Saturday that he will be announcing his commitment. Auburn's had a lot of success with in-state talent. I think Vodney Cleveland is still he's high. I think he's number 5 right now. I got to take a look at that real quick. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Vodney Cleveland? Do you think that Auburn has a good shot at landing him, or do you think it could be Alabama or another school?
Of course, Auburn has a chance. I mean, come on,
Right.
This is Auburn Tigers Live, Taylor. We got to go with Auburn Tigers. But yeah, I mean, and you kind of look at it too. There's going to be a hole there because we have to assume, like a guy Kelter fault, there's going to be some positions on the defense line that they're going to have to replace. And I think too, that's kind of been another position I think at Auburn they're still working on depth is defensive line because I remember back when Auburn used to, they could rotate 2 or 3 guys in and out. Auburn's not at that level. I think that's what has hurt them defensively the last 2 years. I think the last 2 years, their starting 11 defensively has been really good. It's been that depth, especially at defensive line. So I view that also with him if he wants to be more of an impact guy right away when he gets to Auburn and play meaningful snaps. Auburn's probably going to be the best bet. Those other schools have a lot of depth there. Auburn, I think, is still building that defensive line depth. I just don't think it's there beyond the starters.
And we talk about the defensive line and how that's filled out over the last several years. So out of the 21 that Auburn signed last year, you've got Malik Autry coming in as a defensive lineman, Jared Smith coming in as an edge, J.J. Falk, Caleb Falk, who's a brother of Keldrick, of course, is listed as a linebacker, but he could be an edge rusher too. Antonio Coleman from Saraland, the youngest Antonio Coleman, believe it or not, no relation to the one that played in the 2000s, even though they're both from Mobile, no relation. And then Darion Smith, of course, from St. Francis Academy, which seems like Auburn always has a shot to get one of those guys, as I think four last year, I believe, signed. 3 high school, and then Darrell Robinson from UConn transfer is also from that school. But Jordan Crawford, a 2025 signee, played with him. Played with Vodney Cleveland at Parker High School. So I kind of wonder what kind of recruiting pitches he's putting together this week to try to get his old high school teammate back to the Plains.
Yeah, and you got to like what Durkin had did with the defense last year. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I thought going into last year, the defense, I was a little worried about what Auburn was going to be defensively, and then they were great. I mean, they kept them in a lot of games. So yeah, if I'm talking to them, Taylor, I'm saying come to Auburn. You will play. You will play.
Yeah.
You will play. Don't go to those other schools. And another thing is kind of what Hugh Freeze can pitch to a lot of these guys is, look, you can go to Alabama, you can go to Georgia, which I know different coach staff now, Nick Saban's not there. Those are programs that have won a lot recently. Now Auburn has not. Their last really good year was 2017 when they went to the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
It's been a while for Auburn, and for a lot of these guys, and you got to kind of think about it from the high school standpoint. These are 18, 19-year-olds. Last time Auburn was good was 8 years ago. How much do they actually remember and know of that? So what Hugh Freeze can pitch to all these guys is, look, you can be part of something, of restarting something, the start of something great here at Auburn, the start of a run. And I think a lot of players like that, because you can look at, say, okay, I can go to one of the bigger programs, but I'm just another guy. I'm just another guy in a line of guys. I go to Auburn. I help get this team, Auburn, back to where they're supposed to be on the national, way of looking things, the national stage. That can be enticing to, I think, a high school player too.
So it looks like right now for Vodney Cleveland, the biggest competitor that Auburn has is the Florida Gators. And the Florida Gators have been on a tear the last several days. I know they took one out of Auburn's backyard, Marquez Daniels, out of Booker T. Washington and Tuskegee. Basically, picked him out of our backyard, and he's going to be going to Gainesville as of right now. And I think they've gotten 2 or 3 more commits since Daniels committed on Saturday too. So, does Auburn end that momentum, and can we keep this guy in state, or, is he going to go to Florida? That's definitely something to watch out for here in the next week. And you're listening to, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we're talking on the start of the show about Hugh Freeze and the pressure.
Yeah.
Well, Hugh Freeze is kind of in the spot that Billy Napier was in last year. Year 3, a lot of people question some stuff, and then you have a good year with DJ Lagway, quarterback. You kind of take a step up, and now you see what Florida's doing recruiting. Now Auburn has already been doing that, so just say if Hugh Freeze and Auburn has a year like what Billy Napier had last year with Florida, just think what the recruiting is going to be like then. And that's another thing you're talking about, these recruits. Auburn wins 8 or 9 games, as we've been mentioning. That's only going to make it better. They should go up in the rankings with that.
Yeah, it should be for sure. And there's a handful of guys that are in the top 10. We talked about Landon Duckworth. We talked about Anthony Jones from St. Paul's. It's also in the top 10 of the state. So you want to try to win the state as much as you can, just like you did last year, and really keep that momentum going forward. You're listening to Auburn Tigers Live, watching Auburn Tigers Live if you're doing so on YouTube, and we definitely thank you for being a part of today's show. You can check out our brand new website. That's vocfb.com. On our new site, you can check out our full show schedule, catch up on the latest college football news, share your thoughts on Auburn football and college football in general by checking out our forums, all at vocfb.com. Also, if you're watching the show live, or if you're checking it out on demand, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you're doing it, and you are a business owner and you want to get your business out on the Voice of College Football, send an email to sponsorships@vocfb.com to learn more about how you can become a sponsor of Auburn Tigers Live, Auburn Primetime Live with Blake Lane, or any of our other fine shows on the Voice of College Football Network. And we got about 15 minutes of time left, Phillip, so we're going to shape shift over to Auburn basketball for a little bit, and not so much Auburn basketball as much as potential rule changes coming to college basketball next year. Things that have already been discussed. One, of course, was the ability for coaches to challenge calls, and I think some of the ones that were discussed about what could be challenged is out of bounds plays, goaltending. There were a couple others, but I know those were the main 2 that could be up for discussion, because, Phillip, we want to make the pace of play go by quicker. So we're going to give you and coaches the opportunity to slow down the game even more for replays. So, that was one of the things. But the other thing that I feel like has been quietly discussed is, should college basketball, men's college basketball, should it go to a 4-quarter system just like everybody else, or should we stay on the halves? And I know you being a big basketball guy, college basketball guy, I wanted to know what your thoughts were, some pros and cons of college basketball going to the quarter system as opposed to staying on halves.
Cons, there is none in my
Yeah,
book. Go
yeah,
and Bruce Pearl said this when he was, I think it was on Andy Katz's podcast, and when he was asked about it, and I think he said it before in the past. Um, we got to everybody else plays quarters.
yeah,
High school, both men, girls and boys, high school basketball, women's college basketball, the WNBA, the NBA, international, everybody plays quarters. And then men's college basketball said, we will be different and play 20-minute halves. And I just, you got to make the change. Honestly, I was thinking when the women's game did it, I was thinking, okay, the men are going to do it here soon. Because there was a time too, this is from basketball nerdum here. WNBA played 20-minute halves for their first probably about 15, 20 years of existence. But yeah, you got to go to quarters, I think. I think because one, I think it will help with the flow of the game. And another thing, I think it will be nice too. You reset the foul situation after 10 minutes of
yes,
play. That's going to be a big thing too, because that slows the game down too. And then just it becomes a free throw shooting contest. But the quarter thing, now what will be interesting, coaches are going to have to probably change the way they do things with timeouts. And I will be intrigued on how TV does it with the quarters, because we're used to watching the 20-minute halves. When if you followed college basketball regularly, under 16, under 12, under 8, under 4 minutes, stoppage play, we're going to TV timeout. How are they going to do it with quarters? You can't really do it every 4 minutes. Would you do it after 5 minutes? And then coaches are also going to have to kind of get used to that, because they're probably also used to leaning on, okay, I don't have to burn a timeout here because we're about to have a TV timeout. Well, if that's different and you got to slow down momentum, that's going to change some things too with coaches. But I would like to see them go to the quarters. That's something I've been hoping for longest. Then we just need to get it where they do like the NBA, where you call a timeout and they advance the ball to midcourt. Then
yeah.
I will be the happiest college basketball fan out there.
Yeah, I kind of like that too, because you think of the injury situations, you think of the foul situations too, and just how much having that break in the middle, and it kind of changing the strategy, how much that'll help. And especially in the season when you've got Dylan Cardwell was in foul trouble a pretty good bit, and then there were times where not taking the antics away from it, Chad Baker Mazzara, there were times where he was in foul trouble just for standard things, and then there was times Janai Broom was in the situation too. And so you think of the foul situations and it kind of slowing down a little bit, and creating kind of allowing everybody to breathe a little better too, and you kind of cut down on the injuries as well. But yeah, that's one of the big things going on in college basketball now. Is one they're talking about letting coaches do challenges, which could slow things down a little bit, and then you have the things going to quarters. And it's going to be one of those things that I know that if it were to happen, that it would excite me a little bit. And I know I'm probably only talking to myself here because I don't know how many people are in my situation. I live in Alabama, but I cover high school sports in Georgia. I'm right on the Georgia line. The school that I cover in high school is only 20 minutes, down the road, even though I'm in Alabama. Georgia has a shot clock in high school basketball, and it is the greatest thing because you see more points, first of all. You see higher, quicker pace of play. And I think it's really going to help everything. I can remember they played an interstate game towards the end of the year. They had a free region week, so they played one of the really good private schools in Alabama 1 week, and they came over, and the Alabama team needed like 5 or 6 possessions to realize, hey, we have a shot clock. And so it's going to be ironed out a little bit, I think. But that's one of the things that I'm going to be excited about is we finally get 4 quarters. Things are going to be more in a flow, and it's just going to be natural. It really is, and I'm looking forward to possibly that being the case.
Yeah, I wonder if college will ever consider going to a 24-second shot clock like the NBA. Even speed up the game more. Look, I don't like I do not, and this is at every level of basketball. I'm not just picking at college. I'm picking the NBA here too. I do not like all the challenges and replays in basketball. To me,
Yeah.
basketball needs to flow a certain way. I sometimes I don't like in college football. I'll be honest with you. A lot of times I prefer the NFL way because it's boom, boom, they're done. College and both football and basketball, it slows it down. I mean, look, when we you turn on your TV and you go to your guide or whatever, it says 2 hours. Let's be honest. The way these coaches are getting stuff reviewed, these games aren't ending in 2 hours.
No.
We've seen it. It's
I
two
mean,
and a
dang,
half hours.
even basketball games aren't finishing in 2 hours. We've known that, having the 8 p.m. tip offs.
Yeah, so it's the more replays, I'm just against it. But it is what it is. Everybody wants. I think it's just a way to kind of get the pressure off the referees. But yeah, I have covered high school basketball in Alabama, and I know what you mean with the shot clock. I mean, basically, we know what the fourth quarter is going to be. It's going to be let's play keep away if we
Yeah.
have a lead. I mean, that is basically what it is. Hey, anybody in say Alabama's a high school basketball coach is watching this, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Y'all
Which
play
I
keep
don't know
away.
what it's like in your neck of the woods, but over where I'm at in East Central Alabama, it's definitely wanted by a lot of teams. Because I think some of the teams that play like to keep away like to play keep away and all that, and it's just really and it's crazy to me too because like you look at the scores of the Georgia games and you see like 67-56 or 60-58 or something like that, and some of the Alabamas it's like, oh, they scored 40. That's something. That's incredible. So yeah, it's one of those things I think is very exciting, that could be a possibility, and hopefully the NCAA looks into it. And I feel like maybe that even if they do it, there's probably going to be some kinks worked out. Even if they do the replay, I think there's going to be some kinks that are going to need to be worked out, and we'll see how it goes. Because I know, like with MLB, and you really can't do this in college basketball because of the flow of the game. But if there's a play at the plate, or if there's anything that needs to be reviewed, a foul ball called or whatever, they can like look down at a coach and be like, hey, call them, see if it's worthy of a replay. And if they don't think it's worthy, then go on. Or if they think it's worthy, okay, a replay. I don't know how you can do that in basketball, but I mean, I feel like there's got to be a way to kind of regulate that, I guess, because, to keep from replaying every little thing like we saw this year in college basketball. Because I felt like that was incredibly brutal.
Yeah, that's got to be just more on the fly because just like you said, the pace. The only way I could think of is, could you challenge something that happened a few plays ago? I mean, I know they do
Yeah.
it with like a 3-point shot. Then they'll go back and look at it like during a TV timeout. So, okay, his
Yeah.
foot was on the line. Then they'll take the point off.
Or maybe they'll
But
say, like, oh, that was a goaltending and we'll take the point away. It's something like that. But
you'd have to do that. I mean, if you're, but other than that, it's going to be on the fly. You don't really have time to have an assistant go rewatch it. Even in football, you have it too. They'll say, hey, you need to review that before the next play. They have time. But basketball is going to be tough. I mean, that's going to be the hard part with it.
yeah, it's feels like it's just going to be a mess until they finally come up with something. I don't know what that solution is, because it's just like college football and targeting. Like, what's targeting? We saw in the Women's College World Series, what's obstruction? Everybody's got a different definition,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's going to argue about, oh, my definition's right, or no, my definition's right, your definition is wrong, and we're just going to go around in a circle all the way through. Before we kind of wind things down a little bit, big shout out to Jackson Johnson, voice of Alabama here on the Voice of College Football Network. Of course, what's up, Tiger Nation? Big thing for him. He said, tell the cashiers at Publix about me, but he also shouts you out, Phillip Jordan. Here he says right here, don't forget to tell the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Phillip Jordan brings on the Auburn Wire, as well as the Alabama writer for the Last Word on College Football and the Last Word Network. Big thanks to you, Jackson. And, of course, being a supporter of not only the Alabama Crimson Tide, but what we do on the Voice of College Football Network. got a little bit of time left, Phillip. So, what are some things that you're working on in your neck of the woods and all the media outlets that you're a part of?
Well, as I mentioned, I thought it would not be the right thing to mention. I also covered right about Alabama on Last Word of College Football on the Auburn show. But if for some reason you want to know what the enemy's up to, if you're an Auburn fan, go check out that Last Word of College Football. But just pumping them out at the Auburn Wire. Love it, the daily grind of doing that. And I haven't done a podcast last week or not doing one this week. But hey, just I'll be doing stuff. Just the follow the handle P Jordan SEC, and it's all over the place. And hey, and I'm like you, I'm in the high school football business, so Dothan Wolves football on 96.9 The Legend.
Yeah, coming up real soon. Believe it or not, I looked down. It's June 16th, and I'm like, man, we got high school football coming up in 2 months from now.
And we've already started our discussions, because we do the coaches show. And I mean, I don't know if you guys, we had a spring game for Dothan, went and covered that. That was a lot of fun. And so it's like it. I tell people this time of year, it feels like it's a long ways away, but it really isn't.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, because my day job, I'm a teacher, so I'm thinking, all right, it's summer, it's still the early stages of summer. And one of the projects I've done the last 2 years was we write a preview magazine for some of our schools around the Anniston, Oxford, East Alabama area. And I got a text from the main editor of it and said, hey, are you interested in writing for the magazine again? I'm like, yeah, it's got a while, don't we? And we look down, nope, June 16th, and we got to do it. And he's like, all right, here's the schools you're going to be writing about, set up meetings with the coaches, and put out something about those teams. So I'm looking forward to it too. I know when I get that first interview scheduled and we talk high school football, it's going to feel real. And then Auburn football is going to be here before we know it as well. So go check out Phillip Jordan on social media at PJordanSEC. You can also check him out on YouTube. Go find him on YouTube, like and subscribe to his channel for the latest Phillip Jordan podcast. You've got a lot of really good guests that are on your podcast too. So yeah,
I pay them all. They didn't want to.
You do. He is the richest man in the Wiregrass. Phillip Jordan is. So yeah, go check him out for talk, not just Auburn, not just Alabama, not just SEC, but basically anything. I know you're a big UFL, USFL guy too, so definitely check him out if you're into that sort of thing as well. Check us out on the VOCF at the VOCFB on Twitter. You can also check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and you can listen to the archives of the show on Spotify and podcast and Apple Podcasts. You can also give me a follow on Twitter at Taylor Jones with 2 underscores. Phillip, it was a wonderful show this week. Got to dive into Hugh Freeze hot seat talk. Got to talk a little bit about recruiting and then the possibility of adding quarters as opposed to halves in college basketball. So it was a pretty good show this week. And we want you to stay tuned because we may put out another show this week to make up for not having a show last week. But tomorrow night at 7, Blake Lane and Auburn Primetime Live, he will be back. He's been putting out a ton of stuff lately on our network, and he's been doing a wonderful job. So be sure that you stay tuned. Same time, same network right here on the Voice of College Football Auburn channel on YouTube. Check out that live. And if you can't check it out live, be sure to check it out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts shortly after that show goes final. But for Phillip, thanks again for taking time out of your day and chatting some Auburn sports with us. It was a lot of fun. And we look forward to having you back on the show sometime very, very soon. So until next time, everybody, good night and War Eagle.